Hi, I'm Cynthia Schiller. Please like and subscribe. We're going to go a little deeper into what exactly are these mental illnesses. A lot of us feel that we're with a narcissist, or we were, or maybe our parents are, our coworkers. But to make sure that we really kind of understand, because we are not psychiatrists or psychologists, so we have to make sure that we don't misdiagnose or react in certain ways based on the wrong diagnosis, that we think that we know exactly what's going on. But what exactly is a mental illness? It's just a condition that has a negative effect on the way somebody thinks or how they feel, and also how they behave. Because a lot of times it's a reaction to the mental illness that they're not behaving the correct way. Be careful as you go through this trauma bonding, sticking it out with your narcissist, because they can cause actual brain damage in us, and depression, which is also a mental disorder. So these are some of the mental illness types. Here we go with the depression. So try to snap out of it, seek help. There is a suicide hotline available. If you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, reach out to me. I've posted a couple times what the phone number is. Bipolar is different than schizophrenia. People struggle with eating disorders, personality disorders, anxiety disorders. So you might be feeling anxious. You feel like you lost a lot of your life. You're feeling unsettled. So be careful not to slip into a mental illness because of this. If you do, that's par for the course sometimes. So reach out to your family members, talk to a church or a synagogue or a mosque, whatever helps you. And one thing that might be kind of helpful is to believe in whatever it is you believe in. If you believe in God, or if you're atheist or agnostic, believe in yourself or believe in the universe, whatever your power is, believe in that power. Take some of it off your shoulders and put it to God, put it to where you do believe in yourself, that you have your power over your destiny, or the universe will take care of things. That's why a lot of times it might be harder when you believe in yourself, because it is still dealing within yourself. But build up who you are again, because you were a beautiful person before this narcissist or somebody with a mental illness destroyed your reality. So go back in time, in your mind, and that's who you are. And that person's still in there. You just got to bring them out. You got to go through the stages of grief, and that person will slowly seep back in. And all of a sudden, one day, it's like a wave that will come over you to where things are okay again. If you really are struggling with suicidal thoughts or harming yourself, definitely reach out for somebody who can help you. I have an aunt who's in ICU because of multiple attempts on suicide. It can be really serious. And people who have attempted and failed, a lot of times they look back and they're so thankful that they didn't do it. But these are some warning signs of mental illness, whether it's the things you are going through or trying to figure out if you're with a narcissist, a borderline, bipolar. People who often feel sad or withdrawn. And if it's for over 2 weeks, that's when they start to see it as a possible warning sign. We all grieve in different stages. I'll tell you what, if I had a family member die that was very close to me, like a daughter or a parent, it would probably take me more than 2 weeks. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a mental illness. We all grieve in different ways. We all have more of an importance or less of an importance based on just life, who we are. But if you're trying to harm yourself or commit suicide, or if you're even kind of planning it, like what would work, what wouldn't, what's the easiest way, how would I do it? Definitely, if your person is going through this, it could be a sign of mental illness. Any severe, out of control, risk-taking behavior that causes harm to that person's self or to others. So sometimes, you know, if they're lackadaisical on things, or if they do drinking and driving, where they're very dismissive on whether it's going to hurt themselves or others, or even if it's not an injury, but a risk of being arrested, going to jail for a DUI, any sudden overwhelming fear that just happens for no reason can be a sign of a mental illness. You might feel a racing heart, discomfort within your body, difficulty breathing. Those are sometimes with panic attacks. If somebody starts to see, hear, or believe things that aren't real, it could be a sign of schizophrenia. I had a neighbor who you could kind of see when this onset was coming. She heard voices through the television. I just had to know that, you know, when our two little girls would play, that no TV in the house. She was pretty much okay. She was on lithium to kind of help subside some of her symptoms. But you'll be able to see sometimes with these narcissistic rages, you can see a change in the person. You see those narcissistic eyes, those black eyes. That's because of the adrenaline. Their pupils are dilated because of it. So people who use excessive alcohol or drugs, this is more than just social drinking. Marijuana is now legal where I live in the United States. But just be careful that they're not using that too much. Some people use it for medicinal reasons, but if it's to the excess, any type of drug or any type of alcohol is okay. Well, I'm not saying any type of drug. Using alcohol is okay as long as it's not too excess. Drugs, be careful. Some of them, like cocaine, can cause heart attacks. So excessive use, especially the types of drugs, and this is just my personal opinion, the types of drugs to where they're risking their life for a high, not just enjoying a high, but where they're using really dangerous and highly addictive drugs. Drastic changes in mood, whether they have problems sleeping, their personality seems to change, their behavior is unpredictable. A lot of times people with mental illnesses will have a lot of difficulty concentrating. They don't like to stay still. That's a lot of times with the narcissist. They do seem more active. My first one would get real aggressive, like not at me, but you could feel the aggression when he wouldn't work out. So it was good for him to stay busy and really work out. It changed his mood. And often that's why the narcissist will hop from one relationship to another or quit jobs. They just don't like being bored. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. So if somebody with a mental illness is, you know, like they have low self-esteem, so they feel like no matter what they do, it's not going to matter, or they're scared they're not going to perform a task up to par, to where their worrying causes the failure. If you notice in a lot of, please comment, because I've had this, help validate other people. Did your narcissist self sabotage your relationship? It was like every time things went good, there was a bump in the road. It went to pot, like instantly. And that's because of any fears or worries. Maybe they fear that, you know, they don't have the self-esteem to where they think that the relationship can last, that they're not going to be loved, that it's all BS, based on their image of themselves. So borderline personality. So like I said, here we're going to talk about narcissism in a minute right here, but borderline. Maybe your person has borderline personality. And you got to remember too, sometimes you can have one or more of these. So maybe your narcissistic person is also histrionic. But what exactly is borderline? That's instability in interpersonal relationships, self-image, and affects market impulsivity. So it's not just like every now and then they're impulsive. It's almost like a lot more than most people. That's that borderline personality. So antisocial, they have a disregard for and violation of the rights of others. And when they're histrionic, those people are pretty emotional And these are attention seeking people. So if you've been watching the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, this really makes sense why she was seen as histrionic. So narcissistic personality disorder, it's a need for admiration. Sometimes they get that admiration is more attention. I didn't make up this cheat sheet. So it is in the grandiose type, they do need that admiration, but the vulnerable kind of need to be coddled. They just need attention. And so I don't think admiration is the correct word for a vulnerable narcissist. They just need good or bad attention. So that's why they'll stir the pot, just have the focus on them. But they have that lack of empathy on both sides, whether they're grandiose or vulnerable. They just don't get it. They can't relate to us. They don't want to relate to us. And the worst part of it all is the more we try to explain ourselves, the more we push them away. We think we're connecting. Like, this is why I'm saying it. Like, I don't mean to, you know, be a bitch. I'm just trying to, you know, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying, and this is why I'm saying it. We need to work on our family, or whatever we say when we're saying why makes it worse, makes it worse. Don't explain why. You cannot have a relationship with a narcissist if you're always explaining your side. They don't care about it. I promise you 100%, they don't care about it. If they listen to it, it does not hit home. It won't hit home with them. So you're wasting your breath and you're risking making it worse. So avoidant personality disorder. This is when they're socially inhibited. They don't feel adequate in things. They're super hypersensitive to any negative evaluation. They do not want to be judged. And so they'll avoid things because of how they feel society will look at them. A dependent personality disorder. This is somebody who is submissive, clinging behavior, and that's related to an excessive need to be taken care of. So there are codependent relationships, but sometimes the narcissist knocks us down into this dependent personality trait, and it could turn into a disorder because, you know, it's not always our need to be in a safe home as far as a beautiful, you know, 3-bedroom house or better. It's our emotions sometimes. So people with a dependent personality disorder need to be taken care of in different ways. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's sexual or financial. But schizoid personality disorder, these people are detached from their relationships in society and a restricted range of emotional expression. So it's hard to really understand what they're going for. It's almost like they have sometimes a flat effect to where they're just going through life and you can't tell exactly what's going to happen. Paranoid, this is different than the schizoid. This one is a distrust and suspiciousness, and in which others have motives that are interpreted as against them. So they do have definitely a paranoia. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder, preoccupation with orderliness, perfectionism, and control. Sometimes they need the control and they're just preoccupied with how everything is situated in their home. They're obsessively, did I set the alarm? And they'll check it over and over again. And sometimes you can see this in the way that they handle certain things. They might have like some tics to kind of try to calm themselves, or they might be doing something like this, like they're starting to get uncomfortable. Like you don't have all your soda pop cans organized the right way. And so they might start doing this because they're just uncomfortable. Schizotypal personality disorder is an acute discomfort in sorry, I'm all tongue-tied. I've been talking too much today. I teach online. Acute discomfort in close relationships. So their cognitive, which is their brain, their cognitive and perceptual distortions, and their eccentricities of behavior. So they can be eccentric, doing things a little different than most people would, and anxiety. If you guys are going through anxiety, just remember 12 and 100 people are struggling with that. Excessive worrying and fear, inability to stay calm and still. And it's almost like they're in a constant panic. If you're going through that over your breakup, sometimes we go through the CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and it takes time to get back to yourself, go through that grieving process that's necessary for us. Don't skip over it. You have to go through it. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. So let yourself grieve, let yourself cry, let yourself scream when you need to. Talk to people, but talk to people who can relate to you. If you find a therapist, make sure they specialize in dealing with somebody who has dealt with narcissism, with that type of abuse. That type of abuse from a narcissist is way different than just non-narcissistic abuse. Personality disorders, 5 in 100 people have that. And those are all the different kinds of personality disorders. And we have to remember that's probably not an actual accurate number, because so many people are not diagnosed, especially the narcissist. Those are probably one of the least diagnosed people, because they can lie and manipulate their way out of a diagnosis. They don't like to go for treatment, so they're not going to be evaluated and diagnosed. These are to have a personality disorder, these behaviors significantly differ from what's expected. So they don't seem normal. You can kind of tell if you're on this channel, or if you go to other YouTubers, you know something's off. You feel it. You feel something is wrong. And some of you might question if you have something wrong with you. Are you the narcissist? Sometimes we have that reactive abuse. Sometimes that narcissist will put that on us. That's a projection onto us, makes us question our reality. We got to remember, they're kind of sucking us into that vortex of mental health problems. They're giving us depression and anxiety. So take care of yourself during this time. Don't get down. Don't feel helpless. There are suicide hotlines if you're struggling. There are NAMI, N-A-M-I, which is in the United States, a national alliance for mental health issues. So reach out to them. They have free counselors. Some of them are fantastic. And I should reword it, not a counselor, I'm lost for a sponsor, like somebody who will be there for you. A lot of communities have free mental health things. Some insurances cover it, so check into that. You might be allotted a certain amount. And there are different resources. Post-traumatic, and I'll try to research that more for people. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Hello. We are in the complex post-traumatic stress, most likely. 3 in 100 have the PTSD, which is from a one-time event. So complex means that we've gone through it over time. So some of the symptoms on this are intense stress, and it's related to that traumatic event. Often nightmares accompany that. I dated a guy who was in the Army, had like a crashed helicopter in the middle of like one of the wars. And so his might also be kind of complex too, but like that helicopter crash was a one-time thing for the PTSD. If you go through that, if you were in the services, even check, there might be some financial help for you guys out there. He gets a stipend or something from the government. Depression, this happens in 10 in 100 people. 10 in 100 people. We all go through a lot of different things. And remember, that's when it goes over 2 weeks. So it can give us a negative disposition, and that starts to affect our daily life. You're going to struggle with work. You're going to struggle with taking care of your parents if they're elderly, or taking care of your children, or even taking care of yourself and your relationships. So try to just be self-aware of what's going on with you. If you're in the depressed cycle, it's just a deep sadness and loss of interest in things that we once enjoyed. Try to force yourself. to start doing it. If you enjoy dance or walking or playing basketballs with the guys or girls, get back out there and do it. Fake it till you make it, struggle through it, because you know you like it. You're just kind of down right now. And or even just go work out by yourself. Get the blood flowing and enjoy the vitamin D from the sun. Get out there and feel the breeze on you. Schizophrenia is pretty prevalent, 1 in 100 people. And that is when they have a difficulty in discerning reality from fantasy. So 1 in 100 is pretty high, I think. Confused thinking, delusions. So the adults affected by mental health problems are 20 in 100. And I've seen where it's also 25. So there's a lot of people out there that have some issues. So if you're feeling alone, there are people that are going through things. There's you shouldn't feel a stigmatism or a stigma on what's going, that we got to take the stigmas away in society, because look at how high this is. It's almost like it's normal to have something going on with our mental health. We're all going to go through things. It doesn't mean you're stuck in these. It might be a period of time in your life. You might have anxiety now, but if you learn to deal with it, or if you change the situation, if something is really uncomfortable, you're a pilot and you're scared you're going to crash all the time, sometimes it's okay to change a job. We got to take care of ourselves, and that'll kind of cut down on our risks. Because with mental health, it goes by risk factors. So eating disorders happen in 1 in 100 people. I don't quite agree with this. I didn't make this slide. I know there's some where it says like 1 in 8. Now this is for adults, but it also depends on where they are in their life. Men get eating disorders as well. Eating disorders can also be overeating. So a lot of people are heavy, over their healthy weight. And sometimes it's cultural too, different areas, sometimes, or even different types of people will see heaviness as complementary. So people will strive to be heavier, or people will strive to be thinner. So a lot of eating disorders are just caused by society. Some people have the dysmorphic disorder, where body dysmorphic disorder, where they see themselves as different. So I look pretty good. I have a pretty decent body, but if I'm like all paranoid that, I'm just super, my ears are fat. I have the fattest ankles and knees, even my elbow, like, they're focusing on like your ears are fat. Like that's where you're just not grasping what you are. Or if you're a size 2 or 4 and you're like, I'm the fattest woman in the world, it's like you're not the fattest woman in the world. And that's just probably from what they grew up with, whether it was competition between siblings, or being teased that they're too skinny or too heavy. And whether it was from people at school or their parents or babysitters, a boyfriend, girlfriend, it can cause somebody to start to struggle with their mental health. So there, as a way to see if somebody's struggling, look for anorexia. That's when they're not eating enough. Bulimia, they're eating too much and purging. But I've seen like 1 in 8. Females, and men do it as well. There's so many things that people just don't tell us, and often they go undiagnosed. They'll go undiagnosed. Some of this too is over exercising. Sometimes too, a mental health thing, which could kind of go with the depression, is not exercising enough. So get out there and enjoy life. Don't overdo it. But the cluster B, these are our narcissists. They're in the cluster B group. And because some of these kind of go where they cross over, the antisocial, or they're similar, and they're different at the same time. But antisocial personality disorder is a lack of remorse and empathy, sexual promiscuity. So this is the antisocial. Promiscuity means you don't care. You're just going to do anybody or a lot of different people without remorse or commitment to somebody. Inability to maintain attachments. So if they're antisocial, look at people, how long their relationships have been. You know, I'll be 52 next month. And, you know, if I start dating somewhere around my age and they've only had like 6-week relationships their whole life, that might be a red flag. They are irresponsible in obligations to others. So they don't care what they say. They don't care what they commit to. So that's something that kind of seems what a lot of narcissists do. So borderline personality, this is impulsivity. They just do things without regard for the outcome of their actions. They're also unstable in interpersonal relationships between two people, or the personal connection. The borderline personality people have self-image and emotional issues. Histrionic, this is characterized by excessive emotionality and attention-seeking behavior. So sometimes they might, you know, kind of play the victim, or, you know, dress provocatively, or sometimes it doesn't always have to be the best of the best. Maybe they dress down so they stand out. You know, are they just trying to get attention? You know, is that the only clothes that they have? Then there's nothing wrong with it. But if they're purposely doing it, you know, the narcissist, though, their personality disorder is exaggerated sense of self-importance and self-absorption. Now, based on this slide right here, their exaggerated sense of self-importance. Some of them play that vulnerable victim. So you're like, how do they feel important? You know, if they're so mopey and down on themselves, they feel that they deserve the attention. And my best friend's boyfriend, he's kind of vulnerable. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but he's definitely vulnerable. I know his background. I know the way he reacts to things. He flip-flops, changes emotion instantly, but he's absorbed in getting the attention back onto him. So he will lash out and bring up dumb things just to stir the pot. So when he's feeling in commotion, in narcissists are outside triggers. So something triggers him, something we don't even know, because usually when you hear their arguments, it's like, where is this coming from? But it's something, whether it was 2 weeks in the past or from when he was growing up, something just triggered him, and he feels all this commotion. So he's got to balance it with getting everything stirred up. And then eventually when he's starting to feel more calm because he's been in the cycle that he needed, then it can kind of settle back out. And then we're thinking everything's okay until there's that trigger again. And then he's got to stir the pot, and we have to match that until he calms down, or she, depending on your situation. So there are types of therapies. There's also those different types of personality disorders. The category A, those are your schizoid, paranoid. Category B, antisocial, borderline, narcissistic, like we just talked about. These are the emotional yet erratic people. The category A, those are eccentric and odd behaviors, just like your schizophrenics. So in our category C, we have anxious behavior. Those are your avoidant, dependent, and obsessive compulsive. So you'll see that anxiousness, just like I said, with that somebody maybe doing something or moving their foot, they're getting anxious. Something is unsettled to them. And that's probably they don't want to be there. They want to avoid certain things. The obsessive compulsive, they feel like I need to double check that my coffee pot's off, and we're sitting in the car, and Like, I just want to double check it. And they're starting to get uncomfortable because of it. It is okay once or twice to double check things sometimes, but if that's like a complete habit to where, you know, I know somebody who has to touch something, I believe it's 5 times before either they're comfortable with having it or leaving it. I believe it was 5 times. It's just kind of interesting. So there are psychotherapies that they can go through. This can help anybody, even if they don't have a mental illness. This is where you just have an ongoing dialogue between the person with the mental illness, or just even you or I, if we're starting to struggle with things or just need a little bit of guidance in life. And that's between anybody and a mental health professional. But when it's psychotherapy instead of like psycho guidance, the therapy is meant to help deal with the mental illness. Now, narcissists, it's almost impossible for them. They will snap back. Just like I said in my last video, I tripped and my narcissistic neighbor laughed. It's just like a reaction. So it's just how they are. And instead of being compassionate, like, oh, you're okay. So they're going to snap into that, who they are. They think it's funny. They're going to laugh. It's just who they are, you know, and some people would be compassionate. That's just who they are. So they can change it for a while, but in those little instances that happen, like, oh, that person just tripped, or you came home late. This is my trigger. This is how I'm going to act. They don't process things. They don't take, just like when I fell, he wasn't like, how should I react? Should I laugh? Does she need help? It was just reaction. And that's what the narcissist is going to do. They're not going to stop and think. They're not going to feel different. So even if the neighbor acted different, like, oh, you okay? Later on, he's like, that was hilarious. Or telling people, you know. So behavior therapy. This is when they start to focus on changing the unwanted behaviors, whether it's through rewards or reinforcement. And that can be quite effective. Cognitive therapy, and that's used to identify and correct distorted thinking. Just kind of rewires our brain. We're going to have to struggle with that when we're going through the healing process. Try not to let yourself get down in the dumps. Really try to break free of that. And there are some techniques, and I'll start adding some of those things to some of these videos on how to break this trauma bond, how to start healing, how to cope with what we went through. One of the main things is don't focus on the past. You are never going to get your answers. And you're going to be searching for something that will never come, because that can only come, the true answer, from your narcissist, and they're not going to give it to you. They don't like closure. If they do give it to you, they've lied so much, you're not going to know what truth is. So it's easier to let go. It's better to let go. Let's start focusing on today. Just don't give them that much power over you anymore. When you do give them that much power too, it throws off the balance of everything. It's an exchange of energy. The more energy you give, the less they're going to give anyways. So get back to where you need to be. It's weird how there is this energy balance. So the biomedical therapy, these are the medications that can either treat or reduce symptoms of the mental disorder. So I'm going to give you guys a trophy, just like I do with the kids that I teach online. Just a little thing. If you like the way I teach, I do teach all these different things, any subject. I teach everything through something called OutSchool. You can find me on wonderwarriors.com. And I'd love to teach a child too. I just absolutely love teaching. But these are the things like dinosaurs, behavior, puberty, sign language, animals, criminal justice, types of careers to go into, and sewing, among pretty much everything. So please like and subscribe. Feel free to give me some topic requests, and I hope to see you in the future. Check out wonderwarriors.com. Get to know me a little bit better. Those are the things I do. I'll see you soon. Bye.